This is it. So the range that people were talking about, this is the question that sort of hovered over this whole event was, are they going to address Plaid Plus?
Yeah.
Because what happened before this event was maybe just as interesting as the event itself, which is Tesla had also announced and promised another car called Tesla Model S Plaid Plus that would have assumedly new battery technology, 520 miles of range, a slightly faster sub 1.99 seconds 0 to 60, and about 1,100 horsepower. And everyone went, well, this car is bonkers. Why would I get Plaid? If Plaid Plus is coming out next year, I'll get Plaid Plus. Then literally hours before the event, maybe a day or two before the delivery event.
It was on Sunday and the event was on Thursday.
Okay, so a couple days before the event, Elon tweets, this is like official Tesla News Classic, but Elon tweets that Plaid Plus is canceled. Canceled. That's the first time I don't think I've ever seen a Tesla model get announced and then canceled.
It was like such a weird way he did it, though, because it wasn't just like a tweet that says Plaid Plus is canceled. It was this thread of tweets where he says, originally, Model S goes Plaid speed this week, which is like, get everyone amped. 1 minute later, reply thread, Plaid Plus is canceled. No need, as Plaid is just so good. So it was like it's canceled, and then let me throw your sent off with something else, and then a quick like 0 to 60 under 2 seconds, quickest production car made of any kind, has to be felt to be believed. So it's a very quick like, can't wait for Model S Plaid. Plaid Plus is canceled, and the Plaid is going to be so good. So just like,
I actually thought this was brilliant.
I mean, it's a brilliant way to announce it when you kind of don't want, but of course, I feel like the Tesla community was like, oh my God, this is awesome. Did he just say it was canceled? And then like that was the news for like 2 or 3 days.
Yeah. And so the question is, all right, Plaid Plus is canceled. Number one, what do you mean by Plaid is just as good?
Yeah.
And number two, why is Plaid Plus canceled? It was going to have 500 miles of range. And I think there was a follow-up tweet essentially saying...
what Elon said?
Yeah.
So it's actually a response to electric, I believe. Okay. And we'll post that in the show notes as well. And he said, what we're seeing is that once you have a range above 400 miles, more range doesn't really matter. There are essentially 0 trips above 400 miles where the driver doesn't need to stop for restroom, food, coffee, etc. anyway.
I think that's a nice distraction.
I totally agree with you.
If you really read into that saying, seems like people don't really need more than 400 miles, I would argue people don't need faster than 2.5 seconds 0 to 60 either.
That's a really good way to put it. I didn't think of it like that.
So the point is, we're using our inferencing and our context clues to imagine probably the reason Plaid Plus is canceled is because the batteries that would have been needed to create that car aren't quite available yet. They're 4680 cells. They're higher density. They're much more impressive technically. And we think they're going to be in Cybertruck and Roadster to get those respective 500 and 600 mile rated ranges. Mm-hmm. But if we started with Plaid Plus, we're probably going to be taking resources and cells away from those more important vehicles. So we'll just cancel Plaid Plus, shift all those orders to Plaid, distract them about why we're switching. Plaid is good enough. It's great. Trust me. It's going to be just as good, basically the same. And just sort of sweep the 200 extra miles under the rug. Because that was a big difference. 390 miles.
Very big difference.
390 miles is nice. I currently have like 300 miles, and 390 as a max range sounds great. But 520 is way, way more confidence inspiring. That's like, literally I could drive to North Carolina from New Jersey. I could drive probably to like Cleveland from here on 500 miles of range. So I would have been really excited about a car with that sort of range rather than a 0.2 second faster 0 to 60. Mm-hmm. So that to me is a little bit interesting and concerning, but also brings up questions about, well, when are we going to see cars with that type of range? Are we ever going to? If Elon keeps saying, if he sticks with this, 400 miles of range isn't really necessary, then why promise 600 miles for Roadster and 500 miles for Cybertruck?
Yeah.
It's still happening.
I think there's a lot of like weird things to unpack from that, because like if you're saying you think it's, so I think the approach you're taking for it is the optimistic. I've seen two ways people are seeing this. Yours is the optimistic one. Like, let's save these for Roadster, Cybertruck coming out. We don't want those to be delayed anymore. We don't have enough for them. The other approach is these aren't ready. These cells aren't ready yet. And people don't think they're completely ready. We don't know when they're going to be ready. Is this going to mean Cybertruck Roadster get delayed further? And like,
I think both.
And saying they're not ready right now means they're definitely getting delayed. So he's trying to not put any of the attention onto that potentially. So yeah. I wouldn't doubt if it's like a kind of little of A, little of B. Like maybe the batteries are pretty close to being ready and it would just delay Plaid Plus. And then if you put Plaid out before Plaid Plus, and I don't know, there's a lot of speculation going on in that way.
Yeah.
But I do think I think that's really interesting. What you just said though is like, if you're using the excuse for 400 miles right now, does that mean you're basically saying you don't think Roadster or Cybertruck should go 500 miles? Because like you could easily make the argument that a coupe doesn't need to go 500 miles. Like who's going on a road trip? And
efficiency has never been a concern with sports cars.
So that doesn't make sense for me. Now, Cybertruck, on the other hand, like I do think there are a lot of people looking at trucks to go long distances. So that makes way less sense. But now are you going to bottleneck your truck because you used this excuse previously?
Yeah.
Or do you actually believe that? Which then I think is a whole nother thing where it's Elon looking at numbers way too much, numbers of what he has right now, and then potentially limiting stuff in the future because of that.
So if I just stay with my just straight logical brain, number one, Plaid Plus was not canceled because Plaid was good enough. It was canceled, and the distraction was Plaid Plus is good enough. Trust me.
Yes.
It's great. But then two, the reason that Plaid Plus is canceled is probably going to turn into a reason that Cybertruck and Roadster are delayed.
Yeah,
probably.
I totally agree with that.
But as long as we're not talking about those yet, we don't have to talk about those yet. So all the focus was on Plaid that night, and obviously it's still a very impressive car. 390 miles is only slightly less than 412 for the long range, so I'm perfectly fine with that. And yeah, it's an impressive car, but yeah, it's just got me thinking about like how much longer we have to wait for Roadster. This was announced in 2017.
Was it that long?
2017 is when the Roadster was announced. Jeez. So
I mean, I knew it would take a while. I think it's that they keep like talking about it or like releasing it and stuff or showing it, you know, at the semi-truck event that gets people more and more hyped for it, and then you see it pop up every once in a while, but yeah, it might take a little longer. What are your thoughts though on wanting more? Because it's one thing to think about 520 miles as I would like to go on a 520 mile trip, where in that singular case, I think Elon's probably right. Chances are in that 520 mile trip, you're not doing it straight. You're taking breaks, you're taking restroom breaks. If there's a charger available at all those, then yeah, it makes no sense.
Yeah.
I think there's tons of other scenarios though where that doesn't help in that extra range. I think the one I found the most interesting is the people who are the most effective way to charge is lowest battery, correct, to around 60% is like the really, really efficient. So now your 0 to 60% is much bigger and a way bigger range.
Yep.
So that means you can now drive further and still charge as efficiently as possible. Or there are the people who maybe live in an apartment or in a condo or something that don't have a garage and a charging place at home.
Yeah.
Now they're not charging every other day. They're charging every 3 or 4 days. Like that's so nice to not have to. I know someone with a Model Y who they live near a college, and every once in a while, like every couple of days when they come home, they go drive onto the campus and sit in their car, charge it all the way to full.
Yeah.
So they're sitting there for like 45 minutes. That kind of sucks.
I'll add 2 more versions of this.
Yeah.
I have basically 2 types of road trips that I do. One would be like visiting family, and 2 would be for an ultimate trip. One for visiting family, it'll be, here's the destination. It's this many miles away. You're going to drive there. You're going to park there for a couple days, and then you're going to drive home. It would be nice to not have to stop at all, meaning drive there, park it for a couple days, and then drive all the way home. And so even if it is only a 250 mile road trip, if I had 500 miles of range, I would not have to charge and I would just come all the way home. If it's obviously a much less range, I'm going to have to charge at some point. The other version is going to ultimate. So literally you're going to go drive somewhere, park for a couple hours, and then drive home. This is for a game, not a tournament. But the point is, I just really don't want to have to stop.
Yeah.
at all. even if it's 400, 300, 200 miles, I want to go there, not stop, not just go about my day, go about my weekend, and then drive home. And the more battery obviously you have, the more likely you are to be able to do that.
There's something also to be said that, like, yes, there are a lot of superchargers, but as he says, stopping for food, coffee, and stuff like that, like, that's a valid excuse for stopping and getting to top off. But you don't always get to choose the food that's at these places. So, like, we've done a couple of stops. One time we stopped and there was a great burger place and we all sat down, had a burger. It charged a ton because we were really enjoying the food. Then there's like I'm really hungry, and you stop and it's a gas station with like a Subway and like,
or like
really
the back of a mall,
restrooms. Yeah, like,
or some random,
not something you want to eat, or you never know. Like, if you want to take it one step further, if you have dietary restrictions and one of these fast food places doesn't cater to that very well, cool. Now you're just sitting in the car. So that's when it starts getting to the point where gas is better. I like your theory of, if you can do 500 miles, you're probably going further than quite a few gas cars. Now you're getting the advantages over gas cars.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
So I'll end it with this before we take a quick break. I think if Elon's main goal with cars like this is to give the full smackdown to gas-powered cars, you want to give them every single reason across the board is better than a gas car. Better 0 to 60, better technology, better traction, better safety, better comfort, better torque, better everything. If you can also give them better range, that's not a small detail.
No,
People will definitely notice being able to go twice as long as far as days between filling up, whether it was gas or electric, that's going to matter. So
I'd argue it's the biggest hurdle from gas to EV. Easy. I don't think anyone's doubting that EV has better specs and just like potential and just pure drivetrain, but like, what's it called? Range anxiety is like easily the biggest thing stopping people from switch. So why are you limiting yourself already?
Yeah,
it seems kind of confusing to me.
So as long as there's less superchargers and gas stations, keep making that range longer.